Okay, so good morning, everybody. My name is Hilton. I am the General Manager of Alba Wellness Valley in Vietnam. And today we are speaking to a very interesting guest coming to us actually here in Asia, not too far away from us, but he's not originally from his current destination, but I will allow him to explain all of that. We're also doing this talk in association with World Wellness Weekend, which is on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of September this year. So please go to worldwellnessweekend.org, check it out, join us, one group, one family, one goal, wellness for all. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Hayden, who will explain a little bit about where he's from, who he is, and then we'll delve into some very beneficial, I am sure, insights towards wellness. So Hayden, thanks very much for joining us today, coming to us live from Phuket in Thailand. The stage is yours.
Well, great. Thanks for having me. And I hope that I can offer some insights to your listeners. And we're talking about wellness today. And I have a varied background. I grew up on an organic orchard in New Zealand. I played a lot of sports. I received a lot of head injuries when I was younger, growing up. So I would spend a lot of time in and out of hospitals. And that's where I started realizing my mum was a nurse. And I started realizing there was great things about hospitals. They're very, very important. And I also started realizing there are some not so great things about hospitals. And as my sporting sort of career took off and my study took off with education, I was studying physical education, sports science, nutrition and things like that at university. And I ended up traveling to Japan, where I studied martial arts and Aikido. And that's where I started really understanding that wellness is much, 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 much bigger than perhaps what a lot of us are taught generally from hospitals and from schools and teachers and parents. And so, you know, my Aikido master started to discipline me in the ways of wellness, in particular, how our minds function, and the discipline of breath work and the discipline of kata, right? So the flow and the form that you use in disciplines such as karate or tai chi in martial arts. And then from Japan, I learned a lot there about nutrition as well, by the way. And from Japan, I ended up falling in love, actually, and going over to London. And I was working in London, I was working in the UK, and I was working with a lot of professional athletes. I was working with a lot of professional coaches. I was working and learning. I want to say I was learning. I was working, but I was really learning from a lot of physiotherapists, a lot of massage therapists, a lot of nutritionists, in a holistic training environment. And that really also opened me up into a bigger world of science in terms of how the body is incredible and how much science we know and also we don't know. And it also opened me up into a holistic view of training the human body and the human mind, and looking at things like yoga, looking at things like Pilates, looking at things like Tai Chi, looking at things like flexibility, and tying everything in with the fitness model, which I think that's where you came from, Hilton, right? The fitness background. And I think we can have some interesting discussions on how that has changed over the years. And in some ways for the better, in some ways not. And then from London, I ended up being offered a position back here in Asia, in Bangkok. And I was doing product and performance consulting for a company called Sierra, which is Sports Engineering and Recreation Asia. And that's what I'm currently doing. So I'm product and performance consulting, and of course, wellness consulting and private coaching with people that need a little bit of insights into how they can get to where they want to go. So hopefully that's ticked some of the boxes.
Wow. You see, one thing that everyone needs to know is that when you ask Hayden one question, about wellness or anything within that sphere, the answer could be 2 to 3 hours. A very, very knowledgeable man. Actually, just to be 100% honest there, Hayden and I have known each other for quite a few years, and I actually just learned quite a few things about him that I did not know. We've never really had an in-depth conversation about our history. So, wow, I didn't know all of that. Interestingly enough, we do have a similar background. I also actually studied some sports science and physiology as well. So maybe that's why we got on so well and we were on the same level.
On the level.
Different topics, yeah.
Yeah.
So one other thing that I can mention now, but maybe Hayden can mention at the end again, is Hayden does some talks on Facebook. Every now and again, he puts them online, just non-professional, on your personal Facebook page, right?
Yeah, I have a, we can put a link up. I have a private Facebook page. It's actually a Facebook groups / incredible spirit. And the name of the group is actually Mindset for Success. And yeah, I do talks on there. I do on two components really, because I look at wellness and I think, you know, you've got this financial side of wellness, and then you've got this physical, mental, emotional, spiritual component of wellness. And so I sort of combine the two, where we have this wealth side and this health side, and they fuse together beautifully.
There you go.
And I look at both, and I'm like, listen, this week we're going to talk about health, and I might look at nutrition concepts. I might look at physical training concepts. I might look at breathing concepts. And then, you know, the next week I might look at a wealth-based concept, about a mindset, about like, if you're wanting to achieve something in your business, it's about perhaps doing some sort of new marketing that you're scared of doing, and what's holding you back. And generally you'll find that it's your mind. That's the common theme that runs throughout everything, is the thinking that we're thinking, and how to change our thinking to create new wellness results, or health results, or wealth results, or life results.
Exactly.
And yeah, so we can definitely put a link in there towards the end of this, or as we go through. And
when we post it, we'll add some information on there as well. But I definitely recommend people to check it out. One side note, you mentioned to me the other day that during COVID, actually, it was kind of keeping people together, not actually knowing that, you know, not exactly your objective, but actually had an incredibly positive, would I say, even healing effect on quite a few people, you told me.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was just talking to some people, and I was getting some feedback from people, and they were saying, you know, during the last 18 months where we were locked in and we didn't know what was going on, and we couldn't exercise, and we couldn't go out, and we didn't know what was happening. We were very, very confused. And they basically said that your page and just some of your posts, even sometimes just 30 seconds, you'd jump on one day and you'd be walking around your garden and you'd have a 30-second listen, hey, try this today. Think about this today, or you know, hey, if you're in the dumps today, listen, you're not in the dumps. It's just your perspective on things. And they said it literally helped them get through the entire, you know, period. And so I didn't realize that effect. So, and I think that's the beauty, I think, with social media. Sometimes, you know, you can put out a post, you can go live, and you might not realize, but someone's watching that, and it just perks them up, and they feel better because of that little post that you've said, or that little nugget of wisdom that you've dropped. And they go, you know what? I'm going to enjoy today. I'm going to make today the best that I can today. And that's all that you can do. And if you do that regularly, today is all you've got. And if you can create today a better day, and then tomorrow gets a better day, and the other day after that gets a better day, and you're just incrementally getting better, all you're doing is you're just linking days upon days upon days. It's just one day at a time. And that is so important for your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, and your spiritual or your personal growth. So yeah, there
you go. That's pretty much what the talk's about. So I would definitely encourage people to check them out. So maybe while we're on the topic of being in a good mental space, I know you like to talk a lot about that, and I think it goes back a long way. You know, a healthy mind and a healthy body. It's not something that was invented yesterday, but there's a lot more to that than just a Greek saying from the ancient Mesopotamia or something to that effect. So maybe in your terms, again, I told you we only have 30 minutes, but if you can maybe enlighten us or explain a bit of your vision towards this, because I know it's a passion and you're very knowledgeable within this field.
Well, I think it comes from personal experience, and that means, I've been down the rabbit hole, and I've been to a place in my life where I wasn't enjoying life very much, and I didn't know what life was all about, and it was frustrating and it was dark, and I didn't know how to get out of that at that point in time. I do now. But back then it was a tough place to be. And I actually look at that period of time in my life and I realized, you know what, that was a blessing, because if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person who I am today. And I wouldn't have the insights into the psychology and the depth of despair that people can go to, but also on the flip side, the heights that we can go to when we get through that. And so mental and emotional well-being is very close to me. And I think it's very close to all of us, because at the end of the day, and I ask this a lot to people, and I say, listen, can you be well? Can you be healthy if you're not happy? And people start, and I said, well, so if you're not happy, that means mentally and emotionally, you're not happy, because when you're happy, mentally and emotionally, you're feeling pretty good. People start to realize, oh, actually happiness is really important. And then we've got to get into, well, what's happiness for you, because it's different to each person. Sure. And I think that's such an important component of wellness and health and living in the modern world that is undervalued. And that's what we have to start valuing again. And I have a model, and it's basically, I like to imagine a car, and if you're in a car, you want to be going to a destination, and you need the four wheels on the car, so long as it's not a tricycle or a bicycle, but we're not on a motorbike, we're in a car, we've got four wheels, and the four wheels need to be going in the same direction. They all need to be spinning, they all need to be working, they all need to be functioning. And those four wheels are the four components of wellness, which when you think about it is the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. You can't just be mentally well and physically weak. You're going to have a problem. If that wheel is lagging on the car, there's going to be a problem. You can't just be physically strong and really, really fit, but emotionally unstable. If that wheel is unstable, sooner or later, that car is going to veer to the side of the road. If you're energetically, some people like energy, some people like spirit, other people are very spiritual, they might refer to God. I like using the word energy, quantum physics. Some people like the word spirit, but there's this energy within us, and there's that energetic wheel. I like to refer to it as the heart voice, that desire, that there's that part of us, the heart part of us, that wants us to do something. It wants us to grow. It wants us to learn. If we're ignoring that wheel, we're happy, we might be really, really fit, but we're ignoring what we truly desire in our heart to experience. That wheel's wobbly, very hard to find wellness. So the mental, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual, I often refer to them as meds, meaning your medicine. And the meds that I think we all need to practice is the M is an acronym for the mind. So what are you doing to improve your mind? What are you doing to improve the mindful practice that you undertake yourself every single day? And there's many, many things that we can do. M obviously would, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's meditation, but it doesn't have to be meditating in a cave. I surf. When I'm surfing, I'm meditating, so there's movement as medicine as well for the mind. There's the E, which is really your emotions. And what do most people do when they're emotionally upset, Hilton?
Cry.
Cry. They eat.
Oh,
they
yeah.
eat.
Good point.
You know what I mean? They eat. So we've got to get our eating right, because our eating affects us massively. And my food and my macronutrient ratios is going to be completely different to what's required to yourself, and your genetics coming from South Africa and your wife being French and living in Asia. We've got to get our eating right. It's so important. And here's the thing that I always remind people. Can you think right if you're not eating right?
Can you think?
Can you think right if you're not eating right?
Well, I can argue with you, because food is also an element of comfort. So it can put someone in a good space because they're enjoying to eat. But yes, you may not be eating the right thing, as an argument.
Yeah. So we could go down, we could really talk about that. But, you know, if you're eating too much sugar,
sure,
you're not going to think right. If you're not drinking enough water, you're not going to think right. If you're eating the wrong ratios of carbohydrates to proteins for your macronutrient necessity or your sport or your physiological need on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to think right. And it all stems from thinking. That's the M, that's the mind part. So we got to get the mind and then the eating, right, which also connects with our emotions. And we also want to enjoy our food. Yeah. As you said, we have to enjoy our food. We can't turn eating into a science lab, which is what happens in a lot of, fitness orientated camps, let's put it that way. So we have the M and the E, and then the D in the medicine is being dynamic. We are dynamic in nature. We are made to move. We are made to be able to jump, twist, run, push, lift, to stay strong. So what do you need to improve your dynamic self? So for me, I need to be in the ocean, for example, and if the waves get relatively big, I need to be pretty fit and pretty strong. If I am, let's say my wife right now, she's just had a newborn baby. She doesn't need to be doing any of that. She needs to get sleep, and she needs to literally be able to be strong enough to carry the baby and walk around a lot. That's her dynamic need. So being dynamic is very, very important. And then the S, it comes back to that energy or that spirit and listening to that heart side of you. So I think it's important we have our meds. We understand that those medicines you cannot get from a doctor, you cannot get from a pill, you cannot get from a potion. They are up to you, and it's your responsibility to work on them and develop them and understand who you are. And when you do that, life gets better, right? And wellness comes to you. It's not something that you buy or you purchase or you get from the spa. It is something that emanates out of you because it's who you are becoming. You are becoming well. I hope that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I love the example of the 4 wheels on a car because that really gives you a visual idea of if one wheel's out, the whole thing's out.
That's right. That's right.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, I mean, we have to be in a good space. And even if you look at high performance athletes, yes, there's a massive element of stress, and you mentioned the food, which becomes more of a science than an enjoyment. But again, if the balance is out, your performance is out, and you don't get the results you need. So what you mentioned there, it's a lot about balance, and it's a lot about, but I think depending on what level it is, the balance becomes a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. Hey, listen, there's some noise going on next door. Can you hear that, or are you okay? Okay, great.
We're good.
Great.
We're good.
Sorry to interrupt.
So maybe you can just throw in a little bit of your ideas in terms of physical exercise. So, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit, but on what level? I mean, if someone wants to lose weight, if someone's not feeling good about themselves, if they feel they're not eating correctly, as a very quick fix type of thing, there is no real quick fix, but still by doing something is a quick fix because you're moving in the right direction. How would you address that
in terms of the movement side?
From a physical perspective.
I think the first thing to understand is that you're designed to move, but if you're not able to move very well right now, then you don't want to stress yourself out, because more stress hormonally through movement can create more stress internally. So the first thing is to choose movement that you like to do. I think that's the fundamental thing, is to go, you know what, I know I want to move. What sort of movement actually appeals to me? Because that's the first thing that we've got to create a habit that you enjoy. It's very hard to create a new habit. If I said to you, right, Hilton, I need you to get up at 6:30 in the morning and skip for 20 minutes. I mean, are you going to be excited to do that? Probably not. Not many people are, and you're a pro boxer, But if I said, Hilton, what do you love to do? And you said, what do you love to do? Let's say, what do you love to do, Hilton?
Maybe hiking, getting out.
Hiking. Okay, great. I said, can you go hiking at least once a week? Can you do that?
Sure.
Okay. How long can you hike for? 20 minutes, 30 minutes? What sort of easy? So I'm just getting you to appeal to your nature on what you want to do. And now all of a sudden you're in a mindset of, well, I can do it and I want to do that. Because nothing is going to happen unless a person goes, well, I want to do it and I can do it. If the mindset is like, oh, that's kind of difficult, or I don't really want to do that, or I don't know how to do that, straight away, we're going backwards from the get-go. So I think it's really important that people choose something that they enjoy, make it simple, and it's not stressful on the body. There is a caveat to that. Some people don't do enough. In actual fact, I would say most people don't do enough. We sit down a lot. So we have to have, just this awareness and this self-responsibility and go, you know what, hiking once a week, 30 minutes isn't really going to cut it if I sit down 8 to 10 hours a day, and I do want to look better. I do want to feel better. Okay. So I do like walking. I do like hiking. You know what? I'm going to walk every day, or I'm going to walk every second day, or I'm just going to walk around the park. But I think it's important you have a discussion with yourself and understand the reality that you have to move. Choose something you like to do and just start. Literally just start. And don't think that you have to do push-ups. Don't think that you have to run. Don't think you have to get your heart rate going up through the roof. Don't think you have to train like an Olympic athlete. No, not at all. In actual fact, that often stresses the hormonal system so much that you end up putting on more body fat. It's way, way, way more important at the beginning to start easy with what you enjoy and just get the ball rolling, because what you're trying to do is to create a new habit. Habits means behavioral change. Behavioral change is controlled by the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind needs to be conditioned over and 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 over. And I could keep going like that for 2 days. So choose something you enjoy. I hope that helps to get things going.
That's a phenomenal suggestion. I think a lot of people, from my experience within the fitness industry and the gym industry, is yes, quick burnout because I'm going to become beautiful, strong, their image. And yeah, exactly like you said, non-achievable goals, going in the wrong direction, and burn out very quickly. So, doing something you enjoy is obviously a fantastic.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because that's so important. Because listen, and yourself, but I come from an athletic background, and I love being outdoors. I also love being in the gym, but I can only be in the gym probably 3 times a week, maybe 3 times a week. That's about enough for me. Some people can go every day, but not for me. I want to be outdoors. But here's the other thing. People see me in the gym and they go, oh, you're in great shape. And I say, well, yeah, but what do you mean? And they're, oh, you're looking good. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. But that is the outcome of me training for what I love to do. What do I love to do? I love to be in the ocean, and I love to be in the mountains. When I'm in the mountains, I'm either hiking or I'm snowboarding. Quite often I'm hiking up the mountains and snowboarding down. So I'm in the gym for a reason. And I think this is something that's really important, to have a reason. Why are you exercising? If it's just to lose weight, that might cut it. But if you have a reason to climb Mount Kilimanjaro or to hike around a lake in 6 weeks' time, now you've got a real goal, a real reason for being in the gym. And I think that's really important.
Correct.
And the other thing is, a lot of people that work in gyms are gym people. So they only understand themselves generally, and they think everyone is the same as them. Oh, well, I love being in the gym, so you must love being in the gym. Most people that don't like going to a gym, they're not in the gym, and those are the ones that we want to encourage. Go to the gym once or twice a week, get strong. And then if you like being on a bike, go out on a bike. If you like being in the lake, go out being in the lake. If you like being on water, go be in water. Do what you love. So I think it's very interesting.
I think, it's people need more education. And of course, I mean, the marketing behind coming to the gym and losing weight and looking like somebody, that they put on a poster is phenomenal marketing. And that's the business model. But yes, everybody is different, and everyone should have their own personal goals. But it's a lot easier said than done. You and I have been in the industry for a long time. And, we see those people come in with super motivation, and it does take work, and it does take understanding of your objectives. like you mentioned, and that's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to also look at it is if you look at, say, the CrossFit Games, right? Now, the male and the female both look quite similar. When you look at them, very solid, very strong, big joint structure, massive shoulders, strong arms, you know. You don't see many skinny people in there. You don't see many tall people in there. You don't see many really big people in there. Why is that? Because the physiology of those people suits that sport. That is a gym sport. Those people are meant to be in the gym. Their genetics is designed for that. So if you're trying to do that and your genetics is not designed for it, again, you're going backwards. You know, you might be way better suited to being on a bike and doing 100 kilometers, which is not what the CrossFit athletes are designed for. Otherwise, they'd be triathletes, you know? So again, the fitness industry has a lot of things to answer for, I think, and there's some greats and there's some not so greats. I encourage those people that don't really like going to a gym to find someone that they relate to that will help them in the gym once or twice a week. And then the rest of the time, what do you want to do? And usually you'll find they want to hit a tennis ball, or they want to throw a tennis ball around, or they want to kick a football, or they want to just go for a walk with the dog. Do that.
Correct.
Get that going.
I think that's very important. Whoops, I just put my screen into darkness here. Sorry. Hayden, to change the subject a little bit, in the beginning, you mentioned to us that you grew up in a rather organic food environment. Yeah. So maybe can we just touch, because that's quite a hot subject, and I know it's not going to be a 5-minute talk, but one thing, if you can maybe give us a bit of your insight in terms of vegetarianism, plant-based food. It's a massive subject at the moment. There's a lot of science behind it. It also is very much linked to environmental wellness and sustainability. Yeah. So I know it's not something we can talk about for 5 minutes, but maybe if you can give us a little bit of your insight towards, should I be cutting down on meat, or is that just not true? And in terms of environmental wellness, and maybe we won't have enough time. So maybe you can talk to us a little bit about meat versus veg. Well, such a huge topic, right? Yes, it is. I'm asking you about in 5 minutes. Yeah. Well, like I said, I grew up on an organic orchard, so I'm very aware of the importance of the soil. And everything that comes from organic soil is going to nurture the human body probably more effective than anything else. Now, that doesn't mean that we all have to be vegetarians, but what it does mean, if you're eating meat that is coming from non-organic soil and non-organic grasslands, those meats are toxic, probably more toxic than anything. And we don't often talk about that. So there's a big difference between commercial meats and, organically raised animals that are actually loved by the farmers that raise them. And some people might think that's a bit crazy, but actually the farmers, good farmers, love their animals, respect their animals, and they also respect the plants, and they understand that the system works together. So think about it. The plants have got to be there to feed the animals, right? And then the animals, basically they digest the nutrients themselves, they grow. And then, of course, what comes out the back end goes back into the soil, breaks down, decomposes, and goes back into the earth. So this is a cycle. And we are a part of that cycle too. Some people, they feel, for example, if you're an Eskimo, really difficult to be a vegetarian, isn't it? Right? And their genetics requires a lot more flesh, right, in their diet so that they survive, right? So they're a part of that cycle. However, here in Asia, here in, around Thailand, around the equator, around Singapore, around Laos, around Cambodia, etc., where you're at, a lot of people can get away with more of a vegetarian diet because of the humidity, and generally the people are smaller, they're generally a lot lighter, and again, they don't need as much animal products in their diet. Doesn't mean they can or cannot get away with it. I think that's very individual. But I want to just remind people that we are a part of this cycle, and it's really important that we get clean food that is coming from good soil, from good earth.
Another thing to think about, and you might have heard about this, it's the Environmental Protection Agency, I think it is, and they put out a list every year. It's called the GRASS list, which is generally recommended as safe list. It's sometimes referred to as the Dirty Dozen. And the Dirty Dozen shows you the top, usually it's 12, obviously a dozen, but quite often there'll be more foods than that have more chemicals placed on those plants than any other plants out there. So if you're a vegetarian and you're eating a lot of these plants, it is not a good idea, because they are full, absolutely chock-a-block full of chemicals that are often linked with cancer. A lot of the chemicals and pesticides that are put on those plants in America and in Asia are banned in Europe. So for example, a lot of the pesticides on berries, blueberries, cherries, things like that, a lot of the pesticides in apples, peaches, nectarines, stone fruits, a lot of lettuces, for example, you know, a lot of the foods that we have in Asia, lots of basically green leafy vegetables. We've got to be very careful where they're coming from. Tomatoes is another one. I love tomatoes, but gee, growing up on an organic orchard, but down the road we had a non-organic tomato farm where I used to work and pick the tomatoes. Oh my Lord, the chemical residues on those things, you know? So we have to be careful that we're not just saying, hey, go vegetarian, but we're heading people to eat foods that are highly contaminated. So we could go on and on and on, but I hope that helps give you some insights.
For me personally, that's an aspect I actually have not looked at. I'm aware of it, but you really hit the nail on the head, because you have to look at the full story. And yes, going into eating less meat from a healthy perspective and eating more vegetables is not necessarily healthier, because you actually could be poisoning yourself even more. Wow.
Yeah. And it's something people don't think about. And I think we have to really start thinking about, especially when it comes to sustainability.
Yes.
We want to leave a planet that is good for us, for our children, for our grandchildren. Well, how are we going to do that if we continue to basically use or adhere to the current farming policies? We have to, it's out of control. We have to really start looking and supporting local farmers. We have to start looking at supporting the local community. We have to start understanding, who are the farmers that actually really care for the land, care for the people, care for the animals? And you'll find that they're really good people, and they will give you products that are going to be better for your family, for 100%. Your body. I'm a big believer in eating more vegetables. I'm a big believer in eating good fruits. I'm a big believer in that should be the staple. I myself, I don't do too well if I go all vegetarian. My wife, she does much, much better on all vegetarian. But again, she's got half Asian genetics. She's tall, she's skinny, she does well in the heat. Me, I'm not. I'm short, I'm bald, I'm strong, you know, I've got an endurance-based sport. I do a lot of power. I need a lot of protein. So I tend to source good quality New Zealand organic grass-fed land.
I think what you just mentioned there is actually, you brought us right back to the beginning, where it's not one size fits all. It's really relative to who you are, what your objectives are, what's your morphology, what's your location, what is available. And I think we all look at these different clips on social media, or we read these books, and it's really a case of one size fits all. And it's not the case. It's not the case. You know, some beautiful, big, well, healthy bodybuilder went veg and still won competitions. But everybody's different. And it doesn't mean that he won world bodybuilding competitions by only eating veg. Like you gave a phenomenal example of an Eskimo. It's not going to happen. It's a really good example.
That's right. It's to get people to understand that you are unique. Listen, this is my fingerprint. I don't know if you're recording this on video, but this is my fingerprint, right? This is no one in the world. There's 7 billion of us, 7 billion plus. No one's got this. My heart imprint is unique, right? The physiological positioning of the organs and the shapes of the organs and the size of the organs, all unique, completely unique. So our exercise modalities is unique, We cannot be doing all the same exercise programs. It's impossible. It doesn't work. And if you've ever worked with athletes, or if you've ever worked with anyone, you realize, the food requirements, unique, sleep requirements, unique, pretty similar, quite generic, but generally unique, our dreaming, unique. We are unique. And I think this is an important component of wellness as we move forward. And you said, my insights into perhaps what's going to happen in the years to come. And I think that's where we're going. And if you have a look at medicine, that they're trying to do it, they're trying to tailor it. Oh, we'll give you all the medicines that you need, and they're also trying to say, oh, we'll give you all of the nutrients that you need. So they're trying to make it more and more specific, but they're not going to work it out as best as you can yourself. And that's why I keep going back to the 4 wheels on the car. Your medicine is up to you, and you have to understand who you are. How does your mind work? What do you need to do to discipline your mind, to calm your mind down, to control your mind? What are your emotions? Are you emotionally eating? What foods serve you well? Your eating, so important. Your dynamic nature, you are meant to be strong. You're designed to be strong. You are built, you have an incredible body. You just have to nurture it, develop it dynamically. And then that S part of you, the energetic part of you, the spiritual component. So it always comes back to me, to the medicine. What's your medicine? And work on them yourself. And when you keep working on them, you keep understanding yourself, life keeps getting better and better and better at it. And then things start happening like, I don't really like eating sugar, and now all of a sudden you embody wellness, because you realize when you eat it, your eyes twitch, or you fall asleep, or you have a fight with your spouse or whatever it is, and you realize, oh, that really is a class A drug. That's another topic.
Wow. So as I mentioned in the beginning, asking Hayden one simple question can take hours for an answer. So again, thank you very, very much for your insight. I mean, as you can all see, Hayden's experience, his open-mindedness, his joie de vivre, how can I say that maybe in English? It's contagious. And thank you very much for your insights. It's very motivating and fascinating. I learned a lot about somebody who I've known for many years. And I think we can all learn a lot all the time by asking questions and not being a cookie cutter, and just doing what we read and see and hear, because we are all individual. And wellness, it's a very interesting topic that we hit on today, is that wellness is actually individual as well. And it's not just the same for everybody. There are certain things to a certain degree that, yes, definitely overlap. But I think in terms of what do you want, what do you need from a mental, physical, spiritual, and I left out one. Mental,
emotional, the physical, spiritual, yeah.
Yes. Aspect, I think you need to do a little bit of research and a bit of inner thinking. So again, Hayden, thank you very, very much for your time today. Great speaking to you. People can find you on, obviously, Hayden on Facebook, and then they can see from there. On LinkedIn, I know you're there as well. And
probably the easiest one, Hilton, is actually on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
Because there's all of the links are on there in the profile. So I'll leave you my Instagram name as well. And
we'll share that.
Great.
All right. So excellent. Thank you again.
Thank you
very much. Everybody stay healthy, stay happy, be yourself. And
keep your mind open.
Love to the family. Hayden has a newborn baby, so all the best.
Thank you.
Take care.
You all. Love you all.
We'll speak soon.
Speak again soon. Thank you. Bye.